So this stuff is very problematic, and it's done under the guise of social justice and being kind and being wonderful and open and so on and so forth. So it's problematic, but it's disguised as something good.
You have to put that as the preeminent aspect of that person's identity. There's no other way to put it. You are breeding racism.
But then they throw in this racist stuff and almost, I don't know how to put it, like twist it by stealing the goodness of the good nuggets that were in there. Hello, and welcome to Awake at the Wheel. So in today's episode, we're going to explore some of the material that's out there for learning purposes for children. So we've spoken before about some of the problematic messaging that's out there and some of the concerning things that are being presented to children at a very young age with respect to social justice and political views and ideology. So of course, it's important for children to learn about social justice and learn about what's happening in the world. But the problem arises when there is a bias that's presented to kids at a very young age. So I want to start out by watching a quick video regarding a book that I actually saw at Winners not too long ago. And I think there is an increasing number of books such as this that are at stores, also in school libraries, as well as in other areas that kids are accessing. So let's take a look at this video just to frame up our discussion.
People have gotten real heated about this book. Anti-Racist Baby. They're like, oh my goodness, Target is selling this book. This is what the world has come to. Why are you upset that a book like Anti-Racist Baby exists? Oh, you want to uphold white supremacy. I see. You don't want to teach your kids about race, huh? Because you benefit from racism. Okay, I get it. So literally the only reason to not pick up this book is because you benefit from white supremacy and you want to keep that going.
So, Oren, I'm going to pass it right over to you to comment on this first.
Well, if woke had a face, that would be one of them. Okay. Now, the other face would also there'd be lots of other features, but for that arrogance, the smugness, okay, the assumptions, her version of reality must be the correct one versus, hey, it's written by a fraudster, a proven fraudster, a grifter, okay, who's paid a lot of money to start an institution or say a department within, I can't remember if it was within the university or if it was its own institution, but they got millions of dollars, if I'm not mistaken. Nothing was produced, okay? If you ever actually heard Ibram X. Kendi speaking, he's not intelligent whatsoever. His thoughts are logically incoherent. His claims are just not feasible. Okay, it makes no sense. And he toned it. I think I may have said this before, but he took down one of his posts that used to say, up until just recently, because too many people realize what the game is. He said the only way to I think, was it to remedy racism or to compensate for racism is more racism, basically.
Yeah.
It's just against different people, right?
Yeah.
And he modified that because he thought that people were misunderstanding him. No, the problem is people understood him, not her, of course. But anyway, and so yeah, if there was, what's the right word here? The things that the people like her say about people who are opposed to this type of propaganda, this ideology, sure, there is a tiny proportion of people that I think would be appropriate to say this about. There are actual racists out there. There are people who want to uphold white supremacy, etc. They are the tiny minority, and smug, arrogant, ignorant people such as herself, and I'm going to call, without diagnosing, it's not a clinical diagnosis, but narcissists like her. Okay, they don't understand that just because someone holds a different belief than you, that doesn't make them all these things that you're portraying them to be. People like her rile me up. Now, most of it's performative because I'm used to seeing this. Okay, so I think my blood pressure probably hasn't changed at all. But in theory, this is how riled up I'm getting.
And yes, I think it's performative, but I also think that it's rooted in her actual real world view of things. And I take issue with with all of it, but with the definitive statement that she makes that the only reason you wouldn't want to read this to your child is if you profit from racism or whatever it is that she said. I wouldn't want my child reading that, and I'm pretty sure I don't profit from racism. Just saying, right? There's so many other things to consider, but you're right. People who are so self-absorbed and so sure that their worldview is the only worldview make definitive biased statements like that.
Right. And to be clear, when I said performative, I was referring to my own outrage. Okay. I think she genuinely believes all that. Right. She truly does. And she's the kind of person. Look, there's a term, some people hate when we throw these terms around, but these terms came from someplace. They're not just an insult. It's a descriptive term that helps people understand what's going on. And she is the prototypical useful idiot. And for people to understand that, it's someone who so desperately wants to buy into some belief system, and that belief system is being propagated by people with bad intentions, against, let's say, the West. And so useful idiots are the ones who will just go right along to their demise, to their eventual demise, and don't realize that people like them, once the baddies are in power, whether we're talking communists, socialists, racists, whatever it might be, once they're in power, useful idiots like that are the first to go. They don't understand that. They think they'll have a seat at the table. No, they won't. Okay. You'll be a table leg if you're lucky. All right. Yeah. So, it's just, again, it's that smugness, the way she said that. And she, again, that's why I said, if wokeness had a face, it would be hers. And if it had an attitude, it's the same thing. And as you say, it's like she's making all these assumptions that the only reason somebody wouldn't want to read this versus all the other legitimate reasons, but she's just too ignorant. And again, another term that people throw around, the Dunning-Kruger effect, the discrepancy between what people really know or their capabilities versus, what they think it is versus what they really are. Okay. And so we see that, and that's what's coming out here, because again, only her belief can be correct versus all the other explanations. And if she hears it, it's la, 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 la. No, you're just racist. You're making an excuse for your own racism.
Yeah. So back to what you were saying about, people like that think that they are guaranteed a seat at the table at the table if they behave this way and speak this way and, quote, say the right things. What is actually happening when they get there, though? Like, why are they being thrown out?
Because there's no use for them. And now it depends. Now, by the way, because if it's, for example, I don't want to get too political here, but if it's, for example, Queers for Palestine, all right, they truly don't belong at the table. They will be gone, just on ideological reasons, because they just don't fit in. For anybody else in less extreme cases, it's because they serve no purpose. Their only purpose is to flood the market with these bad ideas and to cause division. That's what this is all about. It's divide and conquer. And once that's done, again, look at her. I don't know anything about her, and I'm going to be very judgmental here. She may be a highly intelligent, very capable, blah, blah, blah person. I doubt that, because those kinds of people have critical thinking capacity, and she has none, at least in that video. I want to be clear. I'm basing it only on this video, right? But the people, the thing with them is because they are so, let's say, lacking in insight into their own beliefs, their own motives, their own capabilities, and so on. They are the first people that, if you say, here, if you provide them a narrative, and the narrative is you are a good person, you are doing good, you're going to help marginalize or whatever people, the oppressed, whatever you want to call it. Okay, they are the first ones to bite on it uncritically, not thinking about whether there's another narrative or a subtext going on here. And again, that's they serve the purpose, because you flood the market with people like them. And once again, there's no other purpose for them. Now, there's other people who will be the provocateurs, the ones who are going to start riots, the ones who are going to cause damage. Okay, the ones who are going to threaten people. They serve another purpose. They'll stick around longer because you always need thugs like them. All right, but someone like her, she really serves no purpose. Once the bad people are in power, and fortunately, they're not totally in power. As you and I have spoken about many times, they have occupied so many positions of power. Not her. The people who are promulgating all these bad ideas and intentions, right? They are seeping in, and they've permeated, and there are far too many of them, right? We should have zero tolerance policy. I don't know what the percentage is, but both you and I, through our professional experiences, our personal experiences, we know that they are, prevalent. Right. So, but they haven't got all the power yet. So there's still use for someone like her. So that's what I'm saying. Like, so she serves a purpose right now. Okay, but think about that. What could she bring to the table? Like, really?
long term, yeah, what other than promoting this and getting it to whatever point that, whoever they is want it to get to. But I
Exactly.
think too, somebody watching this and who maybe thinks the way that she does will also make some assumptions about you and I and why we feel this way and why we think this is problematic. But I think it's abundantly important for you and I to maybe clarify our professional stance here in terms of whether it's this ideological garbage that's being thrown at children or anything that's biased or one-sided. It squashes kids' ability to think critically and to develop their own values and morals and view things safely from a critical eye. So this stuff is very problematic, and it's done under the guise of social justice and being kind and being wonderful and open and so on and so forth. So it's problematic, but it's disguised as something good.
Exactly. And that's the thing, the disguise, right? And that's how they've worked it into the system, because most good thinking, or good-minded, good-hearted people, if they really knew what was going on, they wouldn't have let it happen in the first place, right? So many parents are shocked when they find out what's been going on in the school boards, even though people like you, myself, and others have been talking about it, screaming about it for years, but they just couldn't imagine it. And then when they actually see it with their own eyes, when their child, experiences it, it's a big shock, right? And something you said about the ability to think critically, right? So there's two things going on here. One, it's that actual cognitive capacity, that learning those skills. If a teacher is just selling propaganda and saying this is the only story, right, the kids don't learn it. But then the second thing is psychologically, any child who is intelligent and insightful on his or her own, who can say, wait a second, maybe there's something else going on here, they risk the social repercussions. They get penalized, social and let's say academic repercussions, whether they're in high school, elementary school, university, the teacher, the the professor, whoever else, and the other students, they jump on them because, again, it's not saying, hey, here's something that's going on, let's think about it, whatever. It's like, no, what we're talking about, it's so evil that if you were to even entertain any question about it, you must be evil yourself. And so, you are worthy of attack. And it's teaching people to shut up really quickly. And the fact is, an average person, I'm just going to make up numbers, okay? Out of 100 people, maybe 20 people would speak out, like just naturally. Forget about how it's presented, okay? Like most people, they just kind of go along with it. They listen. They don't think that critically. Critical thinking, unfortunately, is in short supply. So let's just say 20 out of 100 people naturally would have that curiosity and challenge and so on, okay? When you have those 20 people being attacked and everything, one, maybe two at most will continue and will persist. Everybody else learns very quickly, shut up.
And it's so sad, but so true. And back to something you said early in that statement there, I think that I'm very clearly awake to what is going on in our schools. And yet I am still flabbergasted by what I've recently learned about the teachings in my son's school about race, about racism, about discrimination, and so on and so forth. I can't believe it. I've we've spoken at length about these things, but it's one of these realizations I had, not in my kid's school. Yeah, in my kid's school too. And
Right.
it's absolutely it's nuts.
Yeah. And, in another episode, we talk about this directly. And before we go any further, maybe we should take a look at one of the pages from Anti-Racist Baby so people can understand what we have or what we take issue with regard to the book.
Ibram Kendi's Anti-Racist Baby, page 4. Quote, "Open your eyes to all skin colors. Anti-Racist Baby learns all the colors. Not because race is true. If you claim to be colorblind, you deny what's right in front of you." Unquote. Kendi is explicitly arguing against the idea of teaching children and adults to be colorblind. Being colorblind means ignoring someone's race and just looking at them as a person. Kendi wants you to train your children to constantly be aware of people's skin tone and race. In How to Be an Anti-Racist, he writes, quote, "The common idea of claiming colorblindness is akin to the notion of being not racist. As with the not racist, the colorblind individual, by ostensibly failing to see race, fails to see racism and falls into racist passivity. The language of colorblindness, like the language of not racist, is a mask to hide racism. unquote. For Kendi and others, if you're colorblind, that means you're not noticing racism all the time. And in order to be anti-racist, you must be ever vigilant and relentless in finding racism everywhere. That means you cannot teach your children to be colorblind. If you follow Kendi's advice and raise an anti-racist baby, you must raise a baby to be race conscious.
So right off the bat, like, that is confusing to us who are highly educated adults. How is a child supposed to take that? It's contradictory and it's confusing. And I won't get into where I learned this from, but I'm aware of a presentation that's being done in schools across my region. One of the slides in this presentation is entitled Hate Crimes and Microaggressions. So, like, the term hate crime is pretty serious. And on this list of hate crimes and microaggressions is exactly that. I don't see color. Another part of this presentation is also, it's a trap, frankly. Spoiler alert. I'll tell you what I think of it right from the get-go. But it was a series of 3 individuals. One of them, I almost hesitate to describe it because it sounds, like I'm being a racist, but nonetheless, there's 3 individuals and 3 professions. And the children were asked to identify which person was of which profession. And even though some of the kids got it correct when they revealed the answers, they said, no, that's racist because you made an assumption. Even though you're correct that the brown person was the doctor, that's racist. So they're being given this message of exactly like that individual was saying in the video that, be very vigilant and aware of race, but also, don't be. Which is it?
Right. And the bottom line is, in order to follow these rules, you have to be racist because you have to judge somebody based on the color of their skin while also not doing that. Right. So as you say, it's paradoxical. It's internally incoherent. And it's dangerous. It's harmful. And again, it's being framed in such a way that it's like a religion. And we've talked before about this, why wokeism is a religion, because heretics get excommunicated if they're lucky. Okay, gets much worse if they're not. And that's what we're finding. And we have to just assume this to be true. And then if somebody in any profession, and someone can complain about us, okay, but if a teacher, and we've seen this happening, this is not hypothetical, by the way. If anyone doesn't know, this has happened, whether it's about race, gender, sex, whatever you want to call it, right? Religion, a whole bunch of other controversial issues. If you question, all you're doing is questioning the orthodoxy, you can have your license suspended, you can have it revoked, you can have fines levied against you, you can be socially ostracized completely. You can be unpersoned, basically, in society. It has happened. It's continuing to happen. It's only getting worse. Our new government, right, is on the brink of making these types of, let's say, thought crimes, right, actual crimes. So it's dangerous, and that's why people have to understand we're not exaggerating, we're not fear mongering, we're pointing out something that has been pointed out for many years, and far too many people have been asleep at the wheel and have just thought, no, it couldn't happen. It's happening. Like, what more evidence do you need?
Yeah, and I know I've spoken before, that I watched a lot of The Simpsons growing up, and I remember I can't remember which episode it was exactly, but there was the independent thought alarm, and they would push the button when somebody had that, and I thought that was so funny as a kid. It's scary now because I feel like that is exactly what's happening. Like you said, the thought police and these thought crimes, it's actually coming to fruition. Like a funny joke from a show from when I was a kid is actually happening in real life.
Yeah, and if you listen to the people who are the strongest proponents of this type of just terrible tyrannical thinking or authoritarianism, right? If you actually listen to them, and I've watched enough interviews with them, when people really, really push them, it becomes very clear that they believe that they are the arbiters of truth, of what's decent. Okay, like it really is, because people ask them questions, like very pointed questions, because they're making some blanket statement. Oh, that's racist, or that's this or that. And the people who aren't afraid to challenge them, they give them these situations, and these are not these wild, unbelievable hypotheticals. These are actual, very pointed questions, and it really boils down to where the person's like, well, what dictates it is how I feel about it, or how if another person is offended. And we've talked about this. Literally anybody can be offended by anything. And if that's what we use as our metric, we're in big trouble, because, and that's what happens in these discussions. The person brings up a hypothetical that, again, that is very grounded in reality. It's a very solid hypothetical. And, in the end, the person has to finally say, well, okay, well, if that person was offended, okay, then we shouldn't say it, kind of thing. Right. But again, taken to its logical conclusion, it's completely illogical or irrational, because we literally won't be able to say anything. And,
Exactly.
and here's the thing. People don't understand this. If there are certain words or terms that are almost universally understood to be hurtful or offensive, right?
Of course.
Then I can understand that. All right. But if one person has a problem with that, or some tiny group or something like that, they've decided it's a problem, we can't expect everybody else to adhere to that. That's narcissism. We've talked about this before. It's literally narcissistic to believe that everybody should conform to your demands.
And that was exactly what I was going to say as well, is that, of course, we want to be sensitive and not say things that are purposely hurtful and harmful. And there are societal norms surrounding that. But even those societal norms are starting to get blurred by all of this craziness, whereby I think that there's been a shift where feelings are now facts, and or at least are perceived as such. And we know in our profession that that's, a hallmark of cognitive inflexibility and mental inflexibility when you're viewing your feelings as facts. One of the tools that we utilize with our clients is to help them view the facts of a situation and not allow their feelings to guide their thoughts, actions, and so on. So from that perspective, I think that this is largely problematic.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a term for that. It's emotional reasoning, right? Just because you feel a certain way doesn't dictate reality. And so or kids are being taught, and adults are going along with it,
Yeah.
right, to promote that, which is so harmful. And once again, when you talk about, colorblindness being either a hate crime or a microaggression, the fact is, the point, in the end, whatever you call it, if kids or adults know, especially kids, we're talking kids here, that there's a prohibition against not just this, but anything potentially tangentially related to it, they start becoming so apprehensive. They start doubting themselves. They start feeling they aren't allowed to speak out. They can't say anything at all. And that's if you wanted to create an anxiety disorder, social anxiety disorder, okay? If you want to have people question their sense of reality or sense of self-worth, this is the perfect way to do it. And, everyone throws the name around. It's been around since, oh my gosh, 60, I'm doing the math here wrong, 80, almost 80 years. Okay, but George Orwell, right, with 1984, it was written in 48, but, everything that not everything, so much of what he wrote about back then, right, as a book against communism, against fascism, totalitarianism, it is coming true.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not coming true in those countries necessarily. It's coming true in Canada, in the UK, in certain states in America. It's, and again, we might be beating a dead horse here, or people might be thinking that, oh, you can't say that. What about all, like that's a violent statement, and things like this, right? It's, okay. So, again, that's why, I think you and I will continue to speak out on these things, because we just hope that somebody hears this, someone who's in a position to do something. We're trying to use our position in whatever we can to, to try to help people just look at what's going on, right? If you agree with it, fine. Tell me why you agree with it. But how can anyone agree with, basically, like I said, teaching children to inhibit their thoughts, to question the reality that they see, and going back to this whole about being colorblind and everything like that, right? So are we literally colorblind? No, that's one of the features that we see. But the point that people don't understand is, I might know that you, have a certain color, certain pigmentation. I might see that you're a woman, blah, blah. And those things can trigger some unconscious beliefs and biases or whatever, right? But those don't necessarily dictate how I consciously conduct myself, how I consciously deal with you, how I see you consciously, and everything like that. And And if those things are being unconsciously triggered, but I'm seeing you for the person that you are,
Mm-hmm.
then we're fine. When you're teaching children, no, you have to be vigilant about it. You have to put that as the preeminent aspect of that person's identity. There's no other way to put it. You are breeding racism or sexism or anything
Absolutely.
else. Like that. That's how you create it.
Yeah. So let's have a look at another one of these gems that is out there, just so we can maybe further illustrate our point. And again, for anybody who disagrees with us, I'm more than happy to discuss in the comments or otherwise. But the challenge is, I think, that nobody is able to discuss these things if they're not in agreement with one another. And that's part of what this is breeding as well, is that there appears to be this mandate of there's one right answer.
Yeah, exactly. And again, that's where the religion comes in, right? That there's only one right answer. It's not the majority answer. It's the only right answer. And once again, it's not just that you are wrong. You are a terrible person.
Yeah. You're not only wrong, you're a terrible person for being wrong.
Oh, and if you're a terrible person, you deserve whatever terrible thing happens to you.
Yeah.
Not My Idea, a book about whiteness, written and illustrated by Anastasia Higginbotham. When grown-ups try to hide scary things from kids, oh no, not again. What? Mom, what? Not again. It's usually because they're scared too. Who is that with their hands up? Why is that policeman screaming at him? Bang, 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 bang! They want to bury the truth. You don't need to worry about this. You're safe. Understand? No. Our family is kind to everyone. We don't see color. Deep down, we all know color matters. Skin color makes a difference in how the world sees you and in how you see the world. I want to bring my aunt a gift. This will only take a minute. It makes a difference in how much trouble seems to find you or let you be. In stores, in cars, on sidewalks, at school. Your skin color affects the most ordinary daily experiences, including which neighborhoods welcome you. So relieved you got here safely. Why wouldn't we? The protests. Marchers came to demand justice for the unarmed African American. They demand an end to killings across the nation. Part of a shameful pattern that has claimed the lives particularly of young men of color. Marchers referenced past victims and a video taken by a bystander. They're blocking the road! Breaking news. Family speaks out on police shooting. You may get the message that racism is happening only to black and brown people. Racism is a white person's problem and we are all caught up in it. I can't watch the news. That police officer was just doing his job. Mostly by refusing to look at it. Come away from the TV, now. Look, I made your favorite. You can face this. Racial justice, we must step up. Understanding the truth takes courage, especially a painful truth about your own people, your own family. Are you all right? Even people you love may behave in ways that show they think they are the good ones. Racism was not your idea. You don't need to defend it. You can bring your curiosity to learn about it and see that it's true. I'll be over here if you need me, okay? Our shared history. In the United States of America, white people have committed outrageous crimes against black people for 400 years. All along, every step of the way, people who love justice and love each other have been fighting back.
And then, because Anastasia Higginbotham is fun and creates little things at the ends of her books, here are some activities. Want to know whose liberation you're fighting for? Your own. White supremacy has been lying to kids for centuries. White supremacy is pretend. The truth is much simpler. Dangerous, not dangerous. Whiteness is a bad deal. It always was. All right, here's a contract binding you to whiteness. You get stolen land, stolen riches, special favors, and then there's a little footnote that says land, riches, and favors may be revoked at any time for any reason. Whiteness gets to mess endlessly with the lives of your friends, neighbors, loved ones, and all fellow humans of color for the purpose of profit. The only price is your soul. Sign below. Dude, we can see your pointy tail. Yeah, who do you think is trying to make this deal?
So I know we just had a conversation about using our words and having, adult conversation and intelligent conversation, but I have no polite way to say this, and we don't often swear on this podcast, but that's like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know how else to put that. That is the biggest load of horseshit I have ever seen. And it is so utterly hypocritical and racist in and of itself by saying that. And I've said this before about other things. If you swap the word white for brown or for black, that would be racist. So why is this not racist? I cannot believe the gravity of racism that is in that book and that they're convincing people of. And what really bothers me about books like this and material like this is that there's 3 or 4 nuggets of good information, like having I can't remember his exact words, but having a heart of justice and having that guide your values. Having a strong attitude, like being a good person, that's kind of strung throughout this. But then they throw in this racist stuff and almost, I don't know how to put it, like twist it by stealing the goodness of the good nuggets that were in there.
Well, exactly. And that's always the game. And that's why lumping in hate crimes with microaggressions, and instead of having any nuance, it's all the same. So, if you do something that nobody else would perceive, but one person did and saw it as a microaggression, that's as bad as, committing an actual hate crime. Because when you have nuance, that's part of critical thinking. And the people who are pushing this crap, they don't want people to think critically. So they're just trying to, again, they're dumbing it down, and they're doing it through emotional appeal. They're once again, you can be one of the good ones, right? Don't be like those bad people. And, this bad enough when you're brainwashing children with this, but the fact that adults see this, and there are so many weak-minded, weak-willed people who say, sign me up. And again, these are the useful idiots, and they can't see what you just described. Mm-hmm. It's pathetic. It's enraging, and most importantly, it's happening, and it's happening to our children. And again, the fact that so many adults can't see this, how do you expect any kids to be able to see it? They don't. They're being brainwashed. It's literal brainwashing. Literal. I'm not even being hyperbolic. It's literal brainwashing.
Yes. And this person doesn't need my sympathy, but I do feel bad because I do sense that he's a well-intentioned, kind individual who wants to do good things, but has been brainwashed by this garbage.
The guy who was talking about the book, that's right? Yeah. Well, the author is like, I can't speak to anyone's motives, but it's
sure.
Like, yeah. But, let's just say, I will be mindful of my words here, but let's just say, hearkening back to one of our first episodes where we talked about wokeism and everything. Okay. I am going to infer, I could be wrong, but that he was, not the captain of the football team. He was not the most popular among the males, and that he was probably marginalized. And people have talked about this. Many people have, and we've talked about this. It's really about allowing it's giving an opportunity, I should say, for the people who felt marginalized in high school, whether it was about their race, their athletic prowess, their looks, their sexuality, anything like that. Okay. It's the people who felt that they were not part of the cool kids. Now this is their opportunity to get revenge. And if you gave them a scepter, okay, instead of using this scepter for good, okay, they're going to use it to clunk everybody over the head who were there as perceived enemies back then. I know it sounds reductionistic, but having worked with enough people, having seen how it's played out, and having spoken to enough people who've either been the perpetrators or the victims of this type of wokeism, right? I truly believe in most cases this is what we're seeing. It's the uncool kids. Now it's their time. They get to shine, and instead of lifting everybody up, right, they're stepping on the enemies, which is 90-something% of the population. They say 80 to 90% of the population, and they're trying to lift up the few people that they deem worthy. And it doesn't matter what what the source of the marginalization or oppression is. It's just that the people who didn't do as well as others, right? They believe that we should elevate them. And it's never the question of, well, why didn't they do well? It's just an assumption. It must be because of the color of their skin or this or that. And books like that, again, if you're a white kid and you see this, you're like, oh my gosh, my family are monsters. And if you're a kid of color seeing this, you're given a free pass because
I'm the victim.
I'm the victim here. You're right. Again, and we've talked about this, and this is why it's so pernicious, because as you said, there's a few good things sprinkled in, and there's just so much rot, that goes along with it.
Yeah. Yes, we often talk about what can people do here, and we're speaking about kids' books, so I'll speak directly to parents because I know that we're crapping a lot on this stuff. And some might actually be surprised by my suggestion here. So we started out by talking about presentations in school and teachings in school and books being read in school. And I'm aware of a lot of parents who will not send their kid to school on the day that, a certain presentation is being held or certain topics are being discussed. I actually advise quite the contrary. Send your kids in, let them see what is being taught, let them learn what is being, they and their peers are being exposed to, but then have a conversation about it at home. I firmly and strongly believe that if you set a good foundation at home of what your family's values are, what the expectations are of your family, it is important for them to see the other side and understand the world that they live in, the differing views that exist in that world, but still then be able to stand firm in their own beliefs. And yes, that may come with consequences, but I don't think ignoring the other side is helpful in any way.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is good to expose to all sides. The only, let's say, exception I'll make is sometimes, and parents have to think really hard about how they do it because it shouldn't be about you; it should be about your kids. Okay, but sometimes parents, they want to really make a stance. Like they want to show, and they want to show their children. So they're teaching the children a different way. They're saying, no, we are, everyone else. And again, I have to be careful because taken to the extreme can lead to problems. But if done properly, showing, these other kids or these parents are just going along with it blindly. And I don't want to subject you, right, to that type of ideology or brainwashing. So I am taking a stance for your protection. So that's one way of doing it. But I do think also it's very important at some point that the children have to be able to be exposed to it. And again, as you say, as long as the parents are fully aware of it, that they can have a discussion. And look, we always talk about what can parents do if something's happening, if it's happened without your consent or your knowledge. You raise a stink. You talk to the school, and we've talked about this before. You get other parents who have similar mindsets. You find out who it is. You do a little bit of whispering, a little bit of tentative probing, and you will find other people who share your values. And and you get a group, and you hold somebody to account, and you elevate as much as you can. That's one way. And if you know ahead of time what's going to be, taught, you say, or taught, inculcated, you say, I want all the material. I want the resources. I want to know the background of the speakers. If it's a teacher themselves, okay, show me. I want everything because as teachers, we have as parents, we should have the right to know what our children are being taught or indoctrinated with.
Mhm.
So I think people should really do that, be active agents, because don't just throw up your hand and say, well, what can I do about it? There's lots that you can do. You may not be able to change the system, but you can protect your child within that system and teach your child to think critically. That's the most important. And again, the kid doesn't have to speak out. You don't want to
No.
make the child a martyr, but
Mhm.
let them have the ability to say, just because this person in front of me is a teacher or a librarian or a guest speaker or whatever, right? I have the ability to process, think about it, and talk with other people to see, again, just because, and parents may be wrong about certain things, right? Like, again, that's why it's good, as you say, to expose them, let the child see all this information and see what makes more sense, what's more credible, what's internally coherent. This is for a bit older children, of course, because younger kids, as we say, I mean, the materials that are being presented to these kids are way above many of their heads, unfortunately, right? So what we're talking about, we're going from like JK up to university kind of thing. We're trying to teach good habits, and one of those good habits is critical thinking.
Absolutely. So, as I mentioned earlier, if any of our listeners challenge what we say or have, questions or thoughts about our opinions or what we presented regarding these books, certainly leave it in the comments, and we're happy to discuss.
Yeah, and on that note, until next time, keep your eyes on the road and your hands upon the wheel.